Hey, Bowie Manning here, Noah Dalzell alongside. Biggest concerns coming out of Game 3. 95-93 loss, a close one where the Celtics had the chance to flip it down the stretch, but 19 turnovers, injuries, Magic figuring something out with their first win here. Take your pick. There's got to be at least one concern coming out of this game, Noah.
I think biggest thing for me is just long term. You know, a couple hours ago we were not sure if Jalen, Jason, or Drew were going to be good to go, and it just feels like with every game that they play against this team, the injuries are mounting. In this one, Jalen dislocated his index finger, but also you could tell that the knee was bothering him, grimacing a little bit on some dunks, was questionable up until game time. Tatum comes back, that's a positive. I thought that he looked good, and the wrist didn't seem to limit him too much, but Drew Holiday didn't even warm up. So I think certainly in the big picture, like, injuries are the thing that I'm most concerned about, not just for this series, but just if you want to, go back to back, like you need health on your side. And right now it feels like the chips are not really falling for them in that sense.
Yeah, and Jason comes into this game doubtful, upgraded, looked good, tailed off a little bit later, 2 turnovers, part of the risk concerns there. Tough to say, but Jalen looked physically okay again in this game, but he returned to the injury report, as you said, and I think that, and we'll see what happens with Drew. I don't think we know enough about Drew to know how panicked to be about that one. But with Jalen, we know this was going to be a lingering thing. This was going to be something he just had to deal with. And after one game that blew us away with how encouraged we were, 41 minutes on top of it, showing that he could go playoff-level minutes, 2 days later, he's in a questionable position going into the game. And that's where we are in this postseason now. It's every other day, 40 minutes. He's out of the last 3 minutes of this game in foul trouble, and you just don't get the full Jalen here 2 days after you got one of the best Jalen performances we've ever seen.
And honestly, I didn't think that, from my vantage point, it didn't seem like it was the knee, the thing that was limiting him.
Yeah.
In this one, I felt like, he kind of said it, but he had a tough whistle, and whether that was his fault and he was just fouling offensively or whether it was just a tough whistle, like I felt like he made the right moves and made the right decisions a lot of times, and it just didn't pan out. But yeah, this is going to be a continuous thing, and I think the fact that he was back on the injury report was a reminder. It was the first time during the postseason that he has been on the injury report, and I don't think it'll be the last. I think we're going to continue to see that he's kind of here and there, and he said it's something that he's managing, and he's taking it one game at a time, but it doesn't seem like it's something to leave in the past, and I feel like after game 2, he was so spectacular in that game that it was easy to just say the knee thing is fixed. And this whole saga today with him being back on the report and looking to be in pain in a couple moments definitely was a reminder of that.
And they missed Drew, too. No real update on him. He didn't warm up here, so it didn't look like he had a strong chance to play tonight. Is that better in 2 days from now? We'll see. As far as my concern goes, it's the threes. And it was in part the turnovers here, the fact that they didn't get many threes up. But we've now seen through 3 games in this series that the Celtics just aren't going to be able to shoot threes in this series. And is that a concern for this series or later down the line if they face a good switching defense that can take away their threes? Does that make them look like this offensively? Because they really haven't been great offensively for 3 games. They've won on defense by and large, and through the Magic's offensive ineffectiveness to this point. So Porzingis hasn't made a 3 in this series. Hauser hasn't scored a point in this series. And then Payton mostly got neutralized in this game, only 2 field goal attempts for him. So guys up and down the roster who are more reliant on 3s than 2s here have seen their games diminish because of the fact that the 3s aren't there.
Yeah, definitely, and I think that you're right. Like it's those players, or their impact is just more limited right now, and part of it is just there's just hasn't been great movement. I don't think the spacing was great today. There were so many times where you felt like one guy was pointing to another to get in the right spot, or somebody was trapped and nobody was coming to the ball. And I do think Drew's absence was felt. I didn't even really think about it in the moment, but some of the challenge they had bringing the ball up, he just gives them another ball handler, another playmaker,
I love the way
guy.
he set offense in that game.
And so I think that he just, they were missing him today, and obviously it could have been worse. They could have been down Tatum and Brown, and we probably would have been due for a pretty tough watch here. But you could feel his absence, and definitely a hamstring strain is something that could linger. Again, we don't have any information, but it's not like he has a cold, and he'll definitely be back on Sunday. So something to keep our eye on. But this Magic team has guarded the Celtics team as well as anybody we've seen this year. And they figured out how to, they don't switch too much, they don't double too much, and they're very, very physical. And ultimately, you can't call every single foul. And I didn't think the refs did a good job today. I think that the game got a lot out of hand, and they could have officiated better.
I thought calling out they should have been ejected, yeah.
And I think just in general, like, there's a certain level of things that you get away with, and sometimes it's a little too much. And there was one stretch where Cole Anthony fouled Jalen 3 times in a row, and I was like, okay, they actually called all those. But there were some other moments where I was like, you kind of have to call that.
Celtics have shot a lot of free throws in this series. I think it's just a
Yeah.
matter of, do you eject guys for going over the line? That, to me, is the only change they could make here.
It's tough because even Cole Anthony, it's like that was a flagrant 1. It felt like a flagrant 2 because it was like the 8th time that somebody on the Magic has done that, but it wasn't necessarily him either. So,
I think when you get into pulling guys down by the arm, which we're seeing a lot of in this
and
series.
KCP did it again today, which was I thought that I was so surprised. I was like, "Where's the fight, guys?" Like I thought that was going to become a little bit of a scuffle, but no.
Is that a concern of yours that the Celtics haven't been able to physically punch back? Because Porzingis wanted to see that.
I don't know. I mean,
they're not fouling right now.
Jalen said
Boston.
post game, right? Like maybe we need to have a fight to see who gets to advance to the series. Nobody actually wants to see that. Like I think ultimately you want to keep your cool.
But Porzingis' case was let's foul them because it's being allowed.
Yeah, the problem is though is that you have to be smart about it. It has to be your identity. It's one thing to be like, okay, I'm going to go guard this guy full court and bump him a bunch of times. You're going to get called for the foul because you don't know what you're doing. Like, I think they have to get back to their brand of basketball. So it's easy to say match their physicality, but their game is what we've been seeing these last few games. And because Celtics are the better team, they've actually won playing the Magic style a couple times. I think the Celtics need to get back to their style of play. And it's tough though because I do feel like
it's not there.
It's not. Yeah, it's not. They're gonna have to go in the film room, and I'm gonna have to go in the film room and rewatch this game too because I do feel like they've just have been totally uncomfortable offensively, and it's a lot of today also was defensively. I felt like they didn't box out, they didn't get rebounds.
The two Wagner plays down the stretch.
Tatum really said it as well, but it really put a lot of pressure on their offense, and that made it more difficult too.
And speaking of fouling, they did send Wagner to the free throw line 12 times. I do think that mixed response, and you understand it after a tough, difficult postseason loss, but the mixed reaction to this game and really the physicality throughout the series, I guess I would say, Porzingis saying we should take advantage of the no calls and we should foul more. You obviously disagree with that because they should be playing their own style.
I'm not saying I disagree with that. I'm just saying it sounds better in theory than it actually looks.
Right, and I agree with that too. Brown going to the officials to help them out after this game. And then I did find it interesting that Jason responded to Joe's get up comment because I didn't love that in the moment either. And I think that's been Joe's response. I think that was like a pretty concerted effort by Joe in that moment to be like, if we're getting fouled, if we're getting banged around, don't show that it's affecting us. Get up and keep playing. And Jason's like, yeah, we're out there getting hurt. I was actually pretty hurt in that moment and I couldn't get up. I wanted to, but I was hurt. And so, like, there's just a mixed bag of how should we respond to this. And again, they're up 2-1 in the series. They're in a good position right now. But they've been, as you said, taken outside of their game. And how can they get back to that? There's some mixed, I feel like, ideas on the roster of how they should go about that.
Well, I think one of the things is that with Porzingis out there right now, like, it does seem like they're a little bit in a tough flow. We talked about that starting unit. They struggled a little bit during the season at times. Beginning of the third quarter, that their 5 best players were on the floor. I mean, no Drew, but it was Allen, Porzingis, and that group really struggled. I don't know. He has to find a way to make himself more effective because he has not been able to find any flow offensively, and he's not the only one, but from their 20 point per game scorers, like Jalen and Jason have certainly found their moments and gotten to their spots. Derek's found his moments. Pritchard's found his moments even. Porzingis has just not been able to. He got to the line in game 2, and that was it. And so I thought it was, the down low, he was struggling so much with the physicality, but today he was getting smaller guys on him and just missing layups.
Yep.
So I don't know. He might just be in a little bit of a slump here, and it's just coinciding with the good defense, but it's not necessarily anything they're doing. I'd love to see him pop out and hit some threes, but they really made it challenging for him when he was trying to do that as well. So I don't have a solution for them here. I think if there was an obvious solution, they probably would have done it by now. But this is what has made this Magic team beat the Celtics team over the last few seasons many times during the regular season.
They haven't won here since 2022.
Yeah. So it's just that's kind of what they're dealing with here. And the good news is they do have quite a substantial margin of error where I thought they did a lot of things wrong today and they still only lost by 2.
Holiday's return would solve a lot too, but we don't know when that will be. If that will be in this series at this point. We'll have hopefully more updates tomorrow on a Zoom call with the Celtics tomorrow morning. So stay tuned for what they say on that. And then we have Game 4 here in Orlando, 7 o'clock. We'll have coverage post-game, as always, on the Garden Report. Check out Noah's post-game podcast tonight on You Got Boston, as well as all the content coming out over on CLNS Media after the game here. For Noah Dalzell, I'm Bobby Manning. We will see you on Sunday for Game 4 after the Celtics lost 95-93 to the Magic here at the Kia Center tonight.
CLNS Celtics coverage is powered by PrizePicks. Download the app today and use code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup.